Rabbi.
Okay, so I thought of this week learning about someone who's not feeling well, or can you take medication on Shabbat? Can you take medication on Shabbat? Last Shabbat, it was a nice day between the rain. So we used the opportunity. We weren't here for Shabbat. We went to one of the parks and we sat down in the park, and then someone comes in, and the two people start speaking, and he says to me, my eye, asking, what happened to your eye? I said, well, I'm not sure what happened to the eye, but it doesn't bother me too much. And his friend tells him, well, put tea on the eye, it might help it. Put tea on the eye, it might help it. Okay, the seora ba'ayin, I'm not sure what you call it in English, but it's quite known that you put warm tea on the eye, and it helps fix or clean up the eye, or whatever the issue is. And then he says, he asks, are you allowed to put it on Shabbat? Are you allowed to use it on Shabbat? And his friend says, I don't know. So today we'll learn that one of these questions, for example, someone wakes up with his eye swollen. Obviously, you can wash it because you clean the eye, you can wash the eye. But what can you do on Shabbat for someone who isn't feeling well? Most of the halachot, or perhaps all of the halachot, are in Siman Shin Kaf Chet, 328. So Shin Kaf Chet. And if you don't remember the Siman, so it's Shachach, forgetting, forgotten. Okay? It's a forgotten Siman. It's forgotten Siman. Siman Shachach or Shkoyach. Okay, that's Koyach. Okay, sure. About someone who's not feeling well on Shabbat, so we divide it to three categories. Three categories. The first category, most severe category, is someone who is in danger. And when we say danger, it doesn't mean that now he is in danger. It means that if we don't do something, he might come into a state of danger. So someone who is in danger, we say that you shouldn't even ask. Someone who's in danger, or there's a question of danger, you don't ask the rabbi. It might be chashash until you go to the rabbi and ask him. It might be already sometimes too late, depending on what the situation is. So for that, you just do as soon as possible, and you try to do the least as possible if it doesn't bother it doesn't interfere with doing the malacha, with taking him to hospital, or fixing him up, or whatever, or taking care of him. So, for example, if he needs, if talking about medications of the past, if the doctors tell him he needs to eat one fig, that will cure him up. Okay? So you don't pick two figs, you pick one fig. Okay, you pick up one fig, unless it will take time. Let's say there's a tree, and now I say, 1 second, if I touch here, there's one fig. If I touch here, there's two figs. And just pick a fig, and that's it. Okay, without starting to. But if it doesn't add any time, so you should do it as fast as possible. That's one category. And the category, it's sometimes we ask, what's pikuach nefesh? Okay, so pikuach nefesh is a bit wide. It's not someone who's now bleeding. In any moment he can die. It's someone who we're concerned that if we don't deal with him now, his situation might become worse and he might be in danger. If, for example, someone who's dehydrated, he can survive now for another hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, right? And he's fine. He might be walking, he might be talking, but obviously, if we don't make sure he gets now liquids, right? So something bad can happen, right? So we won't say, okay, let's wait another hour and a half until he almost faints, and then we'll take him to hospital. No, you take him now, make sure now he gets the liquids, and that's it. Okay, so pikuach nefesh is something not for danger, which is it's all right away, or there's a sick person in front of you, and you're concerned that he will become danger.
The diabetic is in that category that they need insulin shots, and if you don't give it,
Yeah. So many times diabetic people, now they are fine, but they need to be dealt with now because in a few minutes or an hour, whatever it is, they can be in a harder situation. Okay, so
Well,
that's
really,
things
shows
that
that
have some kind of danger in them. But we don't say that everything is dangerous. Okay, if someone has a fever, he has a 38 fever, 39 fever. How much is that in Fahrenheit? 100? I think, yeah. Okay. You're a doctor, right? So it's a fever, 38. Well, if maybe there's a small chance, a very, very small chance, right? Maybe 0.00 something percent, that if he has something very dangerous. So maybe I should take him now to hospital to see what happens. The danger needs to be in front of us, or the being concerned of danger needs to be in front of us. It's sometimes hard to decide what is considered dangerous or not, because it says we're experts, and many times I say, would you miss a day of work? Would you go out of work to treat that person? If the person says, no, I'll wait until the end of work and then I'll go and treat him, so probably you shouldn't do it also on Shabbat. But if as soon as you get a phone call, one thing, someone has this and this, so and so, you put down the phone, take the keys, and go out of work to, assuming you like your work and you aren't trying to avoid work, right? But you leave work and go to treat him, so that's probably something which has pikuach nefesh. It's not a halachic definition, what I'm saying now. Okay, it's not a halachic definition. It's more of a practical definition. Because is this pikuach nefesh? So how do people around treat him? Okay, so that's one category. Another category is someone who isn't feeling well, okay? Or in the terms of the halacha, he's sick. He's sick. But he doesn't have any danger in him. For example, someone who has a fever. If someone has a fever, he has 38 degrees, 39 degrees, he does no danger, but he's in bed and he doesn't feel well. And the question is, what can you do to someone like that? In general, we treat him only with things which are rabbinical. Okay, so if he needs something, we'll ask a non-Jewish person to do it for him. We do only things which are rabbinical. Okay, but that person can take also medication. If someone who isn't feeling well, he's sick. Okay, he's sick. Okay, he has 38 degrees. He has something. He can take medication. And why am I saying he can take medication? That brings us to the third category, probably the easiest or the more severe category, but the lightest category in sickness is Arid Shulchan Aruch. מי שיש לו מיחוש בעלמא והוא מתחזק והולך כבריא. The translation of it will be probably something like someone who have some pain, בעלמא, some kind of pain, something is bothering him, but he's strong and he walks like someone who's feeling well, something is bothering his eye, but it doesn't disturb him to go to the park. He went to the park and it disturbs him, bothers him a bit, but he will go to the park like any other person. Says the Shulchan Aruch, you can't do for him any kind of medicine, any kind of medication you can't give to him, even with a non-Jew. Okay, even with a non-Jew, even asking a non-Jew to give him a medication. Why? We have the gzera of mishum shchikat samemanim. Okay, shchikat samemanim. And what's the gzera of shchikat samemanim? Shchikat samemanim is probably we don't see it so often. But let's go 100 years ago. If someone isn't feeling well, who makes for the medicine? They take rosemary, mint, different weeds and whatever it is, and they grind them up and make for him drink, okay? Put it with hot water and drink it, okay? It will make you better. Okay, so that's shchikat samemanim. And we are scared that people will grind on Shabbat. It's very, very common. Everyone in his house has a kind of grinder. It could be a big grinder. It could be just two simple stones that they grind with each other, but everyone has something to grind things on Shabbat. And that's kind of, okay, hey, you aren't feeling well? Great. I'll take a garlic and I'll take this and we put it together with honey and you'll have it and you'll feel better. Today, it's not so common to have people who do it. So that brings the question, what's about the halacha today? We'll get to it in just a moment. But beforehand, we mentioned many, many times in Shabbat that Chazal, with perhaps the wisdom or maybe responsibility, had a few decrees, a few gzerot on Shabbat to prevent people from doing something which is forbidden. And we mentioned many times, Shabbat has in it also a very personal thing. It's my Shabbat, I keep my Shabbat, I have my own meal. But Shabbat has also a very national, a wide thing in it. We even see it in davening. Someone at the end of Shmoneh Esrei on Leil Shabbat, on Friday night, what do we say loud? ויחולו השמיים בארץ. What happens if one person was still davening when all the people, the minyan, said ויחולו? What does he do?
To find someone to pair up with.
So he should, it's a machloket, it's an argument, but it's better to find someone to pair up with him. And together they have like the witness on Hashem that he created the world. So together they say Vayechulu. So even in the beginning of Shabbat, we have something is not a community, but beyond ourselves. It's two people together. Together we are witnessing on Hashem creating the world. And so that is even just in the beginning of Shabbat. And Shabbat is something which is very, very wide. You have a Korban Musaf in the times of the Beit HaMikdash, which is something which is a tzibur for the whole nation together. So there's something very communal. We go to more people go to shul on Shabbat. There's a much more communal aspect on Shabbat, and we also have the responsibility to make sure that other people won't do mistakes on Shabbat and do something which is forbidden, even if it means that we need to, I wouldn't say suffer, but even if we need to pay something for that. So Chazal have a few decrees in order to keep the atmosphere of Shabbat. I don't remember who said it, but one of the early Zionists, he said, יותר משהשבת שמרה על ישראל, יותר משישראל שמרו על השבת, השבת שמרה על ישראל. More than the Jewish people, the Jewish nation, kept Shabbat, Shabbat kept the Jewish nation. Okay, so Shabbat is part of my identity. You'll see Shabbat as part of a Jewish identity. It's very, very important to keep Shabbat, and therefore we see many decrees of Chazal on Shabbat. One of them is that someone shouldn't do medicines, shouldn't take medication on Shabbat. Okay, someone shouldn't take medication on Shabbat, because if people start taking medication, so they will perhaps prepare their own medication, and they will be aware they will do something which is forbidden on Shabbat. Now, Chazal didn't say that everything, okay, not to take medication. We said already someone who has a kind of danger, so he can do everything for him, even if it's the right, even if it's forbidden by Torah law. Someone who's really sick, okay, really sick doesn't mean now he's 40 degrees, no, he's can't move. Someone who's in bed, he's in pain, he's suffering, so he can also take medication on Shabbat. He can take medication on Shabbat, including someone who you can't say he's not feeling well, he doesn't have a fever, but he's suffering very much. He's mitzta'er me'od. He's very much suffering. He can take medication on Shabbat also. The group who can't take medication on Shabbat are the group who they're walking like a normal people, and something is bothering them a bit. They have a slight headache. They'll go to shul, they will, or maybe on a weekday they would take a Tylenol, an Acamol, or whatever company it is. Okay, Ibuprofen. Shabbat, so since they're strong, they aren't suffering too much from it, so they shouldn't take medication on Shabbat. The guy with the eye, he doesn't bother him so much. There's no danger in it, so wait until after Shabbat to take the medication.
Chashash only for grinding, but these days when we only take.
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, that's a great question, and that's actually our next topic. Is the chashash, is that the concern of preparing medication? It might cause people to prepare medication on Shabbat and do something which is forbidden by Torah law. What do we do about it today? How do we view it today? Because today, when's the last time you made medication? Okay, probably, perhaps never, right? Perhaps never. Although for that I have a small.
Like water, you're supposed to drink.
There's no problem in putting a tablet in water from the right. It's like putting, I'm not sure, ice. No, so that's not preparing. Preparing is taking a few weeds and grinding them together and maybe making a mixture or burning something or cooking something. That's more preparing. I think perhaps the most interesting medicine people here made is all chicken soup. which isn't really medicine, that's food of healthy people. Or some people take onion and cut it to pieces and put honey on it and then take the liquid that comes out, and that's the only medicine. People don't make medicine so much. But here, short story, and then we will continue. So one of my daughters was born around Yom Kippur. We got to hospital before Yom Kippur. My wife was there during Yom Kippur, and only 2 days afterwards, after Yom Kippur, she gave birth. She was, I think, she was in breech. She was upside down. So we took time until we thought she had a C-section, and they managed to turn the baby around. So I stayed for Yom Kippur at someone who lived right next to the hospital, Ma'aneh Yeshua in Bnei Brak. Okay, so that's we came because it was Yom Kippur. My wife decided to go to that hospital. Also, they're very good in flipping babies over. Okay, so that's they were known for that. So I stayed with someone who lives very close to the hospital, and an hour or two before Yom Kippur, I see him go out from his house with that jar of something, and so I ask him, what is it? He says, well, I prepare. He used like a Hebrew word which is made out of English words. I forgot the word. Anyway, he prepares his own ointments, more of a like natural ointments. And there's someone who had something infection in his leg, and he brought his homemade ointment to put this on the infection on the leg of the person. Okay, I said, wow, okay, so actually we have not many people, maybe 1 out of a million or 1 out of a few thousand, who make their own ointments on Shabbat and or on the weekdays, but today in any case it's not so common. It's not so common at all, and that brings a question between the poskim. And it's more of a wide question, and that doesn't refer just to medication on Shabbat. It's more of a wide question. What happens when Chazal have a gzera, they have a decree, and the reason for that doesn't it's not relevant anymore. Okay, the reason is cancelled for whatever it will be. Does it also affect the takana, the gzera itself? Okay, so on one hand we say batal ta'am, lo batla takana, even if the reasoning for that doesn't exist anymore, so still the gzera, the decree, is still in its place. Okay, so most of the poskim say as soon as Chazal made the decree and it was accepted by us, so it doesn't matter if the reason for it exists, doesn't exist, it's still forbidden on Shabbat. And as I said, it's a much reason, but because we need to chase it comes also from the power of the Masoret and how we relate to earlier generations, which means to change something which was done by a Beit Din before us. So you need to be bigger, also in number and also in wisdom, in order to change something that they had. But some poskim say that not everything is a gzera. Okay, something Chazal were just concerned. They didn't say it's forbidden to do something, although here it doesn't seem so much. Maybe before I'll explain. What's the reason for the opinion who are more severe, who think you shouldn't, although today there's no reason for being concerned about making your own medication, so maybe maybe today it's mutar, maybe today it's permitted. So it depends on the question. When Chazal say that one shouldn't take medication on Shabbat, what was their concern? Were they concerned that people will now create medicines on Shabbat? Okay, and today no one creates medicines on Shabbat. Or it's much more of a wider concern. If I now start dealing with every small thing, so maybe now also turn on the heating because I'm not feeling. He said it's bothering him, so I said, okay, now I'll turn on the heating without thinking about it. Or maybe now I'll drive or open the computer to check things. Is it the concern of something very, very specific? Maybe people will start grinding things on Shabbat, and that doesn't exist so much today. Or it's much more of a wider concern that if now people will start dealing with medication on Shabbat, they might do other things which are somehow connected to not feeling 100% comfortable. Like, for example, driving, moving from place to place, driving, fixing up a window that broke, the wind is making for me too much of a noise, so I'll close down the window and fix it up. So it's a much more of a wider concern. So therefore, most of the poskim are machmir. They say that one shouldn't take medication on Shabbat, although there are some poskim who are more maker. Okay, for example, Tzitz Eliezer, he was maker about it, and Sha'arim Ba'alacha also maker about it. But as I said, many poskim say it's forbidden. Shmirat Shabbat, Kilichata, Or Letzion, Alichot Olam, and many other poskim. Rav Shlomo Zalman, in the name of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who the Shmirat Shabbat Kilichata is written in the name of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. He didn't write it himself. That if a person is suffering a lot, he can take medication on Shabbat. And that, we find it out many times. Someone who his head is hurting him quite a lot. Quite a lot. It's not just a small headache. He's very painful. Can he take Tylenol on Shabbat? And the answer will be yes, he can take it on Shabbat. According to Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. If someone now he has symptoms of cold, okay, many people have a cold. They had a fever or didn't have a fever for a day or two. And now they're very bothered by the phlegm. Okay, so can they use a spray, use a tablet or whatever? And the answer is if they are very much bothered by it, if they are mitzta'er harbe, so they can take. Because maybe first, there's two reasons why they can take medicine on Shabbat. First, maybe someone who's considered very much bothered, he's in pain, he has a big need. Maybe it brings him from the easier level, which means someone who's healthy, to the medium level of someone who isn't feeling well. That might be one reason. Another reason, we said that some poskim, some hold, like Tzitz Eliezer we mentioned, that everyone can take medication on Shabbat, not just someone who's actually sick. So everyone can take medication on Shabbat. So therefore, someone who's really bothered, really bothered, he can take medication on Shabbat. And here comes a very technical or practical question. How do you measure really bothered? Or why the question? How do you measure pain? Pain is something very subjective. Everyone feels pain in an individual way, or in his own way. So it's very subjective. And one person, you can stab him with a knife or even with a needle and say, okay, fine, that's nothing. Another person, stab him, it hurts me, it's level 10 of pain, right? So how do you measure pain? And it's subjective. Each one needs to measure for himself, unless it's extreme. Each one needs to measure for himself. And it's hard to measure what's very much. Rabbi Eliezer Melamed writes, and you can argue with it, but it gives more or less of a direction, of an idea. If someone would say, okay, I would walk a kilometer to get this tablet, or I'll ask someone to walk a kilometer. Okay, I live here, I know that someone up the hill, a kilometer away, he has the medicine I need. Would I say, okay, I need it so much, I'll go there on Shabbat, walk there and walk back? Or say, okay, it's fine, I'll just wait until after Shabbat. If someone says, I'm bothered by it, I'll walk a kilometer, or ask someone to walk a kilometer, it's very important for me, he can take that medication on Shabbat. A very common question. Someone who started taking medication before Shabbat can continue taking the medication on Shabbat if if it's necessary. For example, someone who takes antibiotics. Antibiotics, we want him to take it 6 days in a row, or whatever the doctors say. Yeah, 3 days, 10 days in a row, whatever it is. And they have to take it in a row because the idea is to make sure there's no other germs that survive, and then you have to kill them. And then again, how do you kill them? So if someone will stop taking the antibiotics on Shabbat, it's a problem. It will disturb his the medication, so he can take those in a row. The same things women who take tablets to prevent pregnancy, and they usually need to be taken on a certain time in a very small window, and they can't skip a day, so they can take those medications on Shabbat. And the reason is because two reasons. First, no one makes medicine today, so we can be a bit more lenient. Second, there is a opinion of Shlomo Kluger. He was one of the big writers in a few generations ago. I'm not sure how many books he wrote. He wrote many books from Shlomo Kluger. And he held that Chazal's decree was only if you start taking medication on Shabbat, but not if you continue the medicine you started on Friday. Okay, so therefore, if someone started taking medicine on Shabbat and he needs to continue taking them on Shabbat, he can take them on Shabbat. Okay, if he started before Shabbat, he can continue taking medicines on Shabbat. And side profits. So we will just finish with a prayer that everyone should be healthy and we shouldn't need to take medication on Shabbat. And Shabbat will be made on Ramadan. We'll say, okay, we don't need any medicine. Everyone is healthy and doesn't need those.
Amen. Thank you.
תודה רבה.